The Herta is absolutely busted, but is that really a good thing? Let's talk about it. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. To begin, I will say this. The Herta is busted. Like, she is really dang good, and that much is undeniable. And if you want to try her out, she's on banners right now. But where can you go to for cheaper Stellar Jades? Good news, Loot Bar is here to help us out. Loot Bar is a splendid service which can offer you cheaper Stellar Jades compared to the official prices shown in-game. Look at this comparison between the official cost and the Loot Bar cost. New users get a wonderful 8% off, and the prices are up to 23% cheaper compared to the official channel. Loot Bar is a fully safe service, and has countless positive reviews. But how does it actually work? Allow me to show you. First, input your UID. That's right, you need no login information whatsoever. Choose your desired package, and then look at that, more Stellar Jades for me. This is all legit since the site uses a VPN, which is how they cheapen the Stellar Jades, and official top-up methods are used. Check out Loot Bar today to save on all your gacha needs. So here's the thing, we're opening up coming back to Star Rail with some good old-fashioned doom posting. Here's the thing, Herta is broken, that much is undeniable. She cooks pure fiction with her eyes closed. She is good in MOC, she is amazing. Absolutely, she has raised the damage ceiling and all that jazz. But here's the thing. Okay, great, she's another busted unit, but we were all saying the same thing when Acheron came out, when Firefly came out. She's the next big busted DPS. All fine and dandy, right? But I don't actually think that that's a good thing because, alright, she's busted, she's really strong, but how long is that going to last? How long is the Herta going to be one of the strongest DPSs before some more roll around, and then she ends up becoming the status quo, until she eventually becomes less than the status quo even? I will say this, I think that pure fiction units tend to have a longer shelf life than MOC or APOC characters, just in my opinion from what I've observed. So in fairness, compared to most DPS characters, I do think that she's going to last a good while thanks to how good she is in pure fiction. That really does help boost up her pull value a good amount, but it's a bit rough. Okay, we're in Amphoreus now, 3.0, blank slate, new meta. It could be the case where we will finally have a plateau in HP inflation, because that's the real kicker here. If HP inflation continues at the rate that it's currently going at, then the Herta is not going to be that impressive for that much longer, and at least in my opinion, it makes it so much harder for me to get excited for brand new broken DPS characters when I know that they're only going to be the ceiling, the absolute best for a couple handful of patches. Now it's fine if a character is not the absolute best in the game. They don't have to be the best, they just have to be competent and be able to comfortably clear endgame content. But it feels like characters lose competence very quickly. Because think about it like this. Basically every new limited 5-star release that we've gotten is busted. Just think about it. Okay, 2.7, we had Fugue, and we had Sunday. Both of those characters are really, really good. Rappa in 2.6, she ended up being a very strong DPS. 2.5, we got Fei Xiao, she was amazing. Ling Sha, she was a little bit slept on at the time, but she also turned out to be really good. 2.4, I would say that Yunli's like fine, but then you got Jiao Cho, who ended up becoming an essential for Acheron teams. You can keep going back through the Penacony release roster, and it just keeps going. Now, I think it's a good thing if every character is good, because every character should be good. There should be no such thing as a limited release that's just horrible for the sake of, oh, we need a filler character so that people can save, because there are gonna be fans of that character, so they're gonna end up losing if their character ends up being mid compared to other units. And besides, because every new release is so busted, if a unit were to release and they would end up being mid, they're just immediately gonna be way less appealing because most are gonna be used to every single new character busting through the known damage ceiling. Obviously, you don't need to pull for every single character, you can just focus on specific archetypes. Like, if you're an Acheron main, you're not gonna pull for Jade, but you will pull for Jiao Cho, right? So it's not like you absolutely have to pull for every single new character. It's not like that at all. But it's very obvious to see how older units have just fallen off so hard because I would say one of the major issues of Honkai Star Rail is that they don't do a great job at keeping older units relevant. They don't make a whole lot of new characters that prop up older characters. For example, imagine if Blade got a dedicated support. Imagine if Zilla got a brand new limited 5-star but managed to bring her into the meta and compensate for the fact that she basically never gets to trigger resurgences anymore because of how high HP all of the current enemies are these days. Other gachas do this all the time, and hey, Jiao Cho ended up being a really good unit for Acheron, so they've done it before, and I would say they did it to quite an effective extent. Now just make some more buffers for older characters. And then you just have to consider, when does it end? At what point does the power creep just keep going and going, or VHP inflation, however, when does that just keep going and going, and at what point is it going to cap? When are we finally going to see a plateau in the rising HP numbers? And listen, I could very well just be a very salty Kafka main, okay? Yes, I'm a dot main. I main the worst team archetype in the game, arguably the worst team archetype in the game right now. But here's the thing. I have a really good Black Swan, okay? Like, she's a real good Black Swan. E1, S1, she's got plenty of effect hit rate, just enough, like, pretty much a perfect amount. And what do you know? She's holding an attack body. So she is pretty close to being perfect. And I have an E1 Ho-Ho, so even though I only have 146 speed, Ho-Ho's able to cover for the missing speed. So, very good build. Yet I'm still struggling pretty badly when it comes to endgame content and being able to clear it comfortably on time. I know that you can argue that that's just an exceptional case because DOT, it's so cooked, dude. It's so bad right now, but, you know, I still think that my pretty well-invested, very well-built Black Swan with my pretty solid Kafka, like decent Ruan Mei, and good Ho-Ho should be able to clear comfortably, right? But that's just not the case. My personal account is not that insane or anything. I'm missing key supports like Robin. I've just sort of been playing on and off every now and then. I just play the game when it interests me, alright? I just play when it interests me, and I pull for characters that interest me. And that's sort of how I've been going about things. So it could literally just be a me issue, that, okay, this is just on you, you're not optimizing your account well enough, but my dot team is really well invested, I would say. It's really, really solid. I've definitely put the work in to build it up to a good extent, but it's just not clearing comfortably. And I've heard all sorts of tales of people who have these busted hyper carries that they've built up to the very top, but they feel like they're being completely carried by their supports and they're barely clearing in 5 cycles. And it's like, oh. Because then Herta, she's really good right now, but give it like 5 patches. Wait for the rest of the amphoreus characters to come out. Is Herta still going to be on top? Is she still actually going to be S tier? Now, of course, she's going to be busted in terms of pure fiction for a very long time because I personally believe that the pure fiction meta moves at a much slower rate because they make far less pure fiction dedicated characters. They usually tend to make, at least from my observations, characters that are either good in all of the game modes or they're more geared towards APOC or MOC. PF is usually the afterthought in such a case. Probably because, just in my opinion, it could just depend on account. I've always found it to be the easiest game mode because my account is not that well built for PF, but I still find myself being able to clear it fine enough most times. But either way, to me, the Herta still presents this issue of new character, new DPS is just going to keep bolstering the damage ceiling, and it's just going to keep going up and up every patch and continually becoming more and more unmanageable. So here's my hope. Now, at least in Hoyo's other games that I've experienced, the way they usually go about it is, okay, new year, new cycle, and in this sort of new year, we're going to raise the power ceiling by a significant chunk, but every single character is going to be around this new power ceiling. So my hope is that all future amphoreus characters are going to stay around or below the Herta ceiling. Please let us just have a character that can be solid and good and the strongest DPS for at least a couple of months, at least half a year. My golden rule of thumb is always 6 months, because I feel like that's enough time for, let's say, hypothetically, a free-to-play, to pick up the character, build them up, perhaps pick up some of their best installed supports along the way if they get reruns, especially because the rate of reruns is so fast in Honkai Star Rail, and then really properly enjoy them before they fall off, and then the next shiny new thing comes. If things continue this way, then the future of Honkai Star Rail endgame is pretty dire, a little grim, dare I say, but that doesn't mean that there aren't workarounds. Now, once again, I don't want to completely doom post the Herta because PF to me means that she's going to be relevant for quite a while, at the very least, but I would still like to impart my wisdom, if you will. I think that the best way to go about trying to battle this whole power creep issue is just to focus on the broken supports, because let me say this, it's the DPS meta that keeps, you know, changing rapidly. Characters like Robin, Jade, Aventurine, Topaz, they're still good. Ruan Mei came out in 1.6, and she's still good. You know, Ruan Mei, you know that character that just kind of came out of nowhere and everyone was like, cool. Yeah, she's still good, and she came out right before 2.0, and even now she remains as a strong support. So I think that if you're ever gonna get Eidolons, light cones, or any of that type of thing, you should honestly focus it more on your supports, because sure, the DPS, if you give them their Eidolons and stuff, it's gonna feel really great in the short term, but in the long term, you're gonna thank yourself way more for deciding to pick up that E1 Ruan Mei, that E1 Robin, that E1 Sunday, you know what I mean? I just think that's going to last you so much longer. The shelf life on these units is evidently way longer, and they're consistently quite flexible in many teams. Jiaoqiu was made for Acheron, but he can still work in dot teams as an example. Rom Mei is both a dot and super break legend, you see what I mean? So, while the future does look pretty grim, I would say that going into the future of Amphoreus, if a unit has a supportive kit, and they seem to be perfect for your favorite main character, you get that unit, you pick them up, you get their Eidolons if you're able to, because I honestly think that even as a free-to-play, your best bet right now is just saving to do vertical investment, or as I like to call it, high stellar jades-based investment, which is you save for a long period of time to get higher investment on individual characters, as opposed to pulling for every single character, so get like an E1 Robin, an E1 S1 Sunday, that kind of thing. I think if you do that, you should be fine. The Herta is excellent, a very strong hit, and I really do hope that she remains strong. Her animations are a banger. See, that's the other sad thing about Power Creep. Like, these characters have such banger animations. Like, come on, bring them back into the meta so we can enjoy their animations. But yeah, I do think her kit looks great. I enjoy her versatility. I enjoy quite a lot about her, honestly. But here's hoping that she remains relevant. Goodness me. But what do you think about all of this? Do you think that I'm doom posting way too much here, or do you agree that this is an ongoing issue? Let me know down below, I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, I have a ZZZ second channel. Head on over and subscribe if you're interested in some fun, silly ZZZ content. I'd also like to mention that I stream on Twitch. You can catch me every Saturday at 3 PM UK time. Come along if you'd like to see me play Wuwa, ZZZ, and some other things. Hopefully this video was able to tell you why I think that the Herta presents a wider issue of Honkai Star Rail. This has been Juice, signing out, and even if she does end up getting power crept instantly, you know what they're never gonna power creep? Her drip. Like, that is a cool hat, dude.